What's going on, you guys? Jay here and welcome back to the channel. So I hope you managed to catch up on the first video we did back. Again, guys, I'm so sorry for that lapse in content. It's really not easy for me when I'm sick. I'm in a foreign country. I don't really know where to get the right medication. All of the medications are in a different language, so it's just not been easy for me. But I really do appreciate you guys supporting me at the moment. I can see that there are so many people that are simply not going in and doing their research, and instead they're just reverting to this simple kind of basic instinct of, I don't need to read anything because I know everything, and this is really bad, and the person that's proposing this is even worse. And I think a lot of people are really forgetting the severity that surrounds the USTC held in the LFG reserves, and the whole basis and the primary reason for going in and wanting to destroy these funds is a complete security based situation. I cannot stress that enough to everybody, and Chris Armani really pointed this out to us in that final X space when he said we simply do not know who has access to what at this point. So that for me was a big red flag, and from that moment onwards I knew that we had one important task: to go in and burn any funds that were left over by TFL after the final judgment. And what I've got up here on the screen is that final judgment, and this really gives us the ins, the outs, the ups, the downs, and it tells us everything that was final. That's why it's called a final judgment. And the whole reason this final judgment went ahead was because DK and TFL had obliged all of those obligations, as I'd mentioned previously. And look, if you're not up to date right now, go back and watch the other video. It's really going to help give some context to what I'm talking about. So Grok 3 has been released, and what I've done is, again, gone in and I've given the new version of Grok that document that we've just shown on the screen, being that final judgment. I've not cultivated any answers out of it. Instead, I've asked it to explain the document to me, explain what's happened with the USTC and what is the end result, so to speak, with that USTC. And again, Grok is very certain on what it is looking at. It is very certain on this final judgment. So what we've got here is the final judgment specifically permanently restraining Terraform Labs and Duquan from participating in the purchase, offer, sale of crypto asset securities, including UST, now USTC. As you can tell, it's able to distinguish between the two, and it mandates actions for Terraform's orderly wind down under its Chapter 11 bankruptcy case. So what we've got here is the transfer of assets. Defendants are permitted to allow third parties to withdraw or unwind positions from Terraform's applications during the bankruptcy process. And additionally, Quan is ordered to transfer all crypto assets of the Luna Foundation Guard to the Terraform bankruptcy estate within 30 days of the final judgment. When we go in and we look at page 8 of the final judgment, we can see that the transferring was supposed to be all key based. It wasn't a situation where they were going to move their assets. Instead, they expected the keys to be handed over and all copies of the keys past that point being burned. So what we've got here is then the burning of Terraform crypto assets. The judgment requires defendants to burn or destroy private keys to wallets holding Terraform crypto assets, explicitly including USTC, Mira, Luna, Wrap Luna, Anchor, KRTC, and Luna 2.0 after they are received from LFG. This implies that once transferred to the bankruptcy estate, these assets are slated for destruction rather than a sale or distribution, except as needed for the wind down process. And we know by going in and looking at the final judgment that all Terraform crypto assets are void from the liquidation heat map and are not to be used in any way, shape or form other than being destroyed. So as an end result, we should know at this point from reading so much up on this and understanding what we do, that the LFG reserve assets are now in a state of limbo, but that limbo is very unsecure. And the reason why it's very unsecure is because going in and actually taking a deeper look, right, at the LFG reserves themselves, we can see that in the top holders, the LFG wallet has not changed. So we know that the assets haven't been sent from A to B. So when we go in, we take a look at the Finder system, we can see those assets have never moved. So what does this tell us? Well, this tells us that Chris Armani has given us the most vital piece of information that we've probably been given during our existence, which is we don't know, they don't know, Do Kwon doesn't know, and the SEC simply doesn't know who has access to the LFG reserves. Just in the same way, we wouldn't know what project owners have access to what project assets. It's a very peculiar situation. And what we don't want to find ourselves in, again, is a situation where someone has access to these funds that was part of TFL. They get themselves into a country where there are no extradition laws, where they can lawfully and legally, right, begin to liquidate that 1.86 billion USTC. This has never been about creating a big burn. This has never been about a political move to try and better my own position on chain. This is about securing the entire ecosystem for not just us, you, your validator, your mum, your dad. I'm talking about the generations to come in the future that may or may not inherit your LUNC bag and inherit the task which is carrying this chain going forward. So again, what I'm going to do here now is flick back to Grok. And again, I'm using Grok 3. It's in beta mode, but it's definitely more intelligent than Grok 2. And what we can see here is, again, the fate of the USTC being spoken about in that burning mandate. And the judgment explicitly mandates the burning of Terraform crypto assets like USTC once transferred. This suggests that barring any exceptions for the wind down, the 1.86 billion USTC would be removed from the circulation by destroying the private keys to the wallets holding them. Burning in crypto typically means rendering tokens inaccessible, effectively reducing the supply. You and I know that this isn't the case. Those coins still exist, they're still there, and part of the total supply. And until we remove them from that total supply, they are still going to be there. Just because we turned the warning light off on the dashboard of the vehicle does not mean we fixed our engine problems. So it really is that simple. And again, it's very clear going back and looking at what we were just showing you originally from what Grok was going through. We know that during that orderly wind down, we saw the ability for people to unstake and withdraw their positions from the shuttle bridge. We've seen that they went in and they burned the remainder of their Luna 2.0 tokens that were vested. We know that they have obliged every single part of this final judgment apart from the LFG reserve assets, because as Grok has shown us, it wasn't the assets that were supposed to be burned. It wasn't the assets that were supposed to move. Instead, it was the destruction of the private keys to the wallets holding them. When we go in and we look at the original LFG wallet, we know that these assets have not moved. And because they haven't moved, that means they are insecure. And yes, this is a huge security flaw in our system, because we do not know who Do Kwon could get involved with in jail. We don't know what kind of plan he could figure out with someone in a certain jurisdiction where they could do it lawfully and legally. We do not ever want to see even an inkling of these assets hit the market, period. It would be a catastrophic destruction event for this blockchain, not just, right, the USTC that's sitting here, but the USTC that I've gone through and I've shown everybody in the remainder of those 8 wallets, which pertains to around 4.8% of the overall total supply of USTC. So how important are these funds to us? Well, they're very, very important at this point, because we need to understand, as a Chris Armani said to everybody in that X space, they do not know who has access to what funds. And yes, this includes, like I'm saying, these 8 wallets with all of these assets still there, still available, and somebody could just be waiting for the right time. And by gosh, this is definitely the right time, because as we've seen going over all of the news articles at the moment, the SEC is under huge fire. And I mean huge fire. You're going to be seeing around 70% of the SEC stuff simply just made redundant, removed and made useless. The SEC is going to be one of the biggest scapegoats of 2025 when it comes to the re-adoption of crypto, even to the point where Elon Musk's Doge is launching a probe into the SEC as we're ending this Ripple lawsuit. So these are all of the different things that I'm looking at. And again, I'm not concerned about all of these ins and outs where everybody's saying, oh, we could get in a lot of trouble for doing this. We could poke the bear. That's the SEC. It's quite clear what is supposed to happen with these assets and what they've been mandated to do. And what they're not mandated to do is be sold or sat there in limbo as a huge security risk. And it is a huge security risk. It's going to be something that we're going to always need to worry about. Now, a lot of people have been saying to me, Jay, look, what happens if this does fail? If it does fail, we'll go in, we'll blacklist the assets and we'll freeze them and no one will ever be able to touch them. And we'll have to exclude them from the total supply using a custom API. Is it going to be a lot more work? Yeah, everything is a lot more work when it boils down to it. But are we going to get it done? Yes, because that is exactly what we're about here at HC Crypto. Forward movement, not standing still, and not simply embracing no change. We want change. We want to go forward. We want to see different things tried and tested. Hashtag Project Remedy, guys. And aside that, just stay safe, stay humble, stay aware, and burn the UST.